In the meantime, let's take this opportunity to speak to our man on the inside, Dave Marler. Dave, although you went to Mississippi State,
correct.
We here have been wondering, what is the story behind Bruce Clark? So, do you want me to say some of that, or do you want to?
No, I'm fine. I just thought you may have been giving more background on the man, the myth, the legend, Bruce Clark.
So, Bruce Clark was an all-star out of Penn State. He was drafted 4th overall in the NFL draft by none other than the Green Bay Packers. He refused to sign with the Packers and instead came to Canada, to the CFL, and signed with the Argos. He has been an all-star defensive tackle this year, but we always wondered why turn down the opportunity to play in the NFL for a fairly sizable salary, one would imagine, to instead play in the Argos. And we're very happy to have him, but he's been very tight-lipped about it. So we've been trying to interview him. I understand we were talking during the break here that you have a little bit of insight.
Well, in the off-season, as you know, a lot of us CFL players like to spend time in the discotheques in Montreal. And that's where Bruce Clark and I became fast friends. And, it's ironic that we're here on Labor Day, because it was on Labor Day many years ago that Bruce Clark decided to visit Toronto on the holiday, and that's where he took a Canadian lover.
So you're saying Bruce Clark?
Twins, yes, that's correct.
Bruce Clark, when he was still at Penn State, took a vacation to Toronto where he met a
Toronto woman.
Wow. And had some kind of dalliance with her. Is that correct?
Yes, he has 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl, and he just can't let them go. He can't leave Canada because his girlfriend is a criminal, obviously, and she can't cross the border. But he's just here for the kids.
Okay, so the kids are twins.
Yeah.
So when he initially said that he had a Canadian lover and then immediately shot out twins, maybe it's where my mind was going.
No. He's a family man. He's a good Christian guy.
He's a good Christian guy, and so yes, and she is his girlfriend.
Yeah. Not that Christian.
Not that Christian. Not able to enter the United States, and does that? I mean, you've been mentioning it throughout the game so far. A particular type of, I guess, some people call it a party drug. Some people call it a street drug. I'm talking, of course, about crack cocaine.
No, it's actually boring tax stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
So for tax reasons, she is not able to go from Toronto to Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a lot of tax fraud that she committed, but she served her time. And it's all squared up with the taxpayers, so we're pretty good now.
And this is tax fraud in Canada or tax fraud in the United States?
Well, I hate to say it, both.
Oh my goodness! So I guess they really say sometimes that the IRS has teeth and the CRA has gums.
Marvin Dre, I work for Canada Customs and Revenue.
Ah, the tax man.
A tax man.
Pardon?
I'm not the tax man. I'm a tax man. Saying the tax man is just a little dehumanizing, thank you very much.
Wow, this has come up before, hasn't it?
And so I suppose she is safe here in Canada, but if she ever crosses that border over into Wisconsin, so Bruce Clark turns down hundreds of thousands, money that potentially could be used to pay off both the IRS and the CRA, because it would mean spending time away from his girlfriend and his 2 kids, is deciding instead to turn down those large sums of money to work in Canada so that he can be close to his girlfriend, who will continue to have to suffer the stress of dealing with these large tax bills.
As was my understanding, but my defense at discotheque was very loud, so I can't be 100% certain.
It does get very loud, and Norman, you and I have been to a couple of discotecas, and we've had some very extensive conversations. And I can't say that I remember much of the details of any of them.
I remember there was a very strong bass. There was very strong gesticulation. There were points being made very exuberantly on both our parts. But the content, there's only the music.
The music. See, that's the difference between people like ourselves and me being a broadcaster, you being a former player, versus Dave Marler and Bruce Clark being current players. Current players, they get to sit in a booth where they can actually listen and hear one another so that you can retain the information so it can be shared later on a public broadcast. Well, I cannot wait to see the next time that Bruce Clark and yourself meet each other in a hallway, because it sounds like something like that was told in secret, but I'm really appreciative that you would share that with us today. So if we see a big sack coming up in the second half, I think he might be laying a little bit of extra mustard onto that particular hit. But you know what? Dave, you did it for our audience. Now we have the mystery that why did Bruce Clark not sign in the NFL? It's because he has a girlfriend with 2 kids who has committed, it seems like, very serious tax fraud, both in Canada and in the United States, owes a lot of money and is facing potential jail time if she were to go to the United States.
I just have to say I'm not worried about getting punched because this isn't Labor Day. This is all going to be tape delayed. We're not going to air it because none of those guys are working. So we're probably going to watch this game, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. Right? They don't broadcast these live, do they?
Ooh. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Norman, what do you say we open up the old third and roll mailbag?
Let's do it.
Any letters to post?
Letters, what letters? A message was dispatched.
We'll start with your correspondence.
I know all about the letters.
Read your letters.
My letters! Give me that!
Oh, he wrote letters. Any fool can write letters.
This letter begins, Dear Edward, I'd never heard of your show before, but my agent told me about it and I felt compelled to write in. Oh, well, didn't need to mention that part. On episode 7, Just a Mississippi Boy, you interviewed Dave Marler about why Bruce Clark signed with the Toronto Argonauts instead of the Green Bay Packers. Now, full disclosure, I know Bruce Clark, and I don't like Bruce Clark. Yes, we are brothers of the line, the defensive line. We hold together and we hold strong, but we were rivals. In 1978, I was drafted to the NFL by the Green Bay Packers as a defensive tackle. 11th round, 248th overall. I was jubilant, then despondent. I couldn't get on the field. 1978, practice roster. 1979, practice roster. I swore 1980 was going to be my year. Then, disaster. Bruce Clark is drafted by the Packers. First round, 4th overall. My hopes were dashed. I couldn't compete against this behemoth, but then John Mayer, the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, was insisting that Clark play as a defensive tackle, my position. Bruce hated this. He'd always played on the outside as a defensive end, and he didn't want to play inside. Bruce would run off statistics about how defensive tackles had shorter careers than defensive ends. I don't know where he picked that stuff up. From what I hear from your show, maybe it was his Canadian girlfriend. It was a straight-up power struggle between Clark and Meyer, and neither man would yield. So Clark said, so long, found a job in the same town as his girlfriend and her kids, and made a pretty good life for himself. I hear the Argos are letting him play defensive end. I'm happy for Bruce, and happy that him skedaddling meant that I finally got on the field for the green and gold. I don't know about this tax evasion business. Marler should zip it on that front. But I do know that Bruce Clark lives on the edge and belongs on the end of that line. Signed, Terry Jones. No, not that Terry Jones. Defensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers. Wow. So Norman, we're getting a little bit of extra context here. It seems as though it was not only a somewhat dubious tax situation that led Clark to come and stay in Canada, but perhaps Green Bay would not let him play at his preferred position, and he chose to come up here to Canada and play for our Toronto Argonauts. And I gotta say, God bless him. John Mayer, if the Argos win a Grey Cup this year, we gotta send you a ring, because Bruce Clark has been so important to this team this year. Thank you for your service to the Double Blue, John Mayer.